When I was 21, I went on a vacation to Washington. It was somewhere I'd been dreaming of going since I was a kid. My plans were to hang out around Seattle and stay in the city for the most part, but I figured it was only right to go camping in the massive forest and woods that Washington had to offer. I only wanted to camp for a night and then head back to the city. I'd been camping a few times before, but never on my own, so this was a first. I rented out some camping gear from a local shop and found a small trail with camping grounds. I drove down there and got going as soon as the sun was up. The path to the camping grounds was very easy and took me less than 3 hours. It was basically just a flat plot of land that had some clear signs of previous campers being there, like old equipment, rusty cooking pots, and some trash. I set up my tent off to the side next to a tree where the area was clear. As far as I knew, there weren't any special sights to see nearby, so I was just there to chill and be at peace. At sunset, I got a fire going and brought out my Ziploc bag that I had prepared full with s'mores ingredients. I made an unhealthy amount, and when I was done, I just sat next to the campfire and spent some time thinking. That was until I was interrupted. A man came up behind me from seemingly nowhere and sat at the other end of my campfire. "Oh, hey, you camping around here too?" I asked, trying to make the strange encounter less awkward. He looked at me, but he didn't respond to my question. I looked around behind me and to the sides to see if anyone else was here, but it was just us. A moment went by before he stood up and walked away. I don't recall if I was more nervous, creeped out, or confused, but nonetheless I stayed there and kept my eyes open for the next hour. Eventually I put my fire out and went inside my tent, staying up for another hour before falling asleep. I woke up in the middle of the night to a strange sound, the crackle of a campfire. I opened my eyes and saw the orange light flickering in front of my tent. My heartbeat grew faster and louder as I unzipped the tent. My campfire had been rekindled, and 4 men sat around it, all looking directly at me. One of them was the same man who'd come by previously. I slowly stepped out of the tent and looked at each of them in horror. Before I could say anything, one of them spoke something in a foreign language, and then 2 of them got up and grabbed me, patting me down and taking my phone and wallet. These guys were way bigger than me, and there was no point in resisting. After a good search, they then dragged me away from the campsite. We walked for a good 20 minutes out into the woods, and I was holding back tears, pretty sure this was the end. But then they shoved me on the ground, hit me over the head, and ran away. I think they were trying to knock me out, or at least daze me enough to not follow them, but I felt like it was pretty obvious that given the circumstances, I wasn't going to go strolling back toward them. I got up and immediately started jogging in the direction that I thought would take me closer to the interstate that ran between the forest. Once all the adrenaline was out though, my head was killing me and it was hard to think straight. Not to mention, it was pitch black and I was stumbling over fallen logs and tree roots and had no way of knowing if I was walking straight or not. Then, I'd say about 30 minutes into walking, I passed out. It was likely from a mix of everything, but when I regained consciousness, I realized that I had even less of an idea of which direction to go in. I walked in what I prayed was the right direction, knowing that there was a chance that I could just get even more lost. After an hour of seeing nothing but large trees and dark woods, I spotted a light in the distance. It was a flashlight, moving around like someone was carrying it. As I approached, I screamed for help, only to see the figure of a man turn toward me and shine the light in my direction, followed by 3 more figures appearing behind him. Without hesitating, I sprinted away, but they didn't seem to follow me. From that encounter, although scaring the shit out of me again, I saw the way they were walking and was able to keep myself going in that direction. 2 more hours of walking, and at the break of dawn, I reached the interstate. After another half hour, I finally waved down a car and was safe from there. After getting back to the city and contacting police, I got my car back and gave the officers the best description of the events that I could give. I still had to pay for the lost rental items, but that was far from the worst of it. Lucky for me, the men who robbed and attacked me didn't seem to be in the killing business, but leaving me out in a vast forest like that in the middle of the night was giving me slim chances at best. As odd as it sounds, if I hadn't seen them for a second time, although as horrifying as it was, it's likely the only reason I'm still here today.